Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Go ahead and get started this afternoon. My name is Tamara Pesic. I run the Visiting Speaker Series out of Microsoft Research, which probably most of you already know. Our guest today is Donna Shirley, who worked at JPL and ended up running the Mars Rover project. She worked there for 32 years and then retired, and then stopped retiring and became the dean at one of the schools of University of Oklahoma, the Aerospace? Assistant Dean of Engineering, which she did for 4 or 5 years, and then retired again and moved out to Seattle, upon which time she got another job running the Science Fiction Museum for Paul Allen. So another self-proclaimed workaholic doing fascinating, amazing work. I'm so excited that she could be with us today. Please help me welcome Donna Shirley.
So I'm going to tell you about the museum with the hope. Has anybody been there yet? Oh, gosh, you guys have all been there. Well, then you can give the lecture. So what did you think? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go through the museum, and those of you who've seen it, you know, if you want to ask questions about anything particular or add anything, please feel free. Very informal. So this is our icon, and it represents whatever you want it to represent. It has, well, some people think it looks like a croissant. It has kind of eyes down here, and it's got these legs that are coming over and kind of ripping at the marquee. And this lights up. It's red at night, and nobody knows what it is, but it's our icon. And we're trying to get a plush toy made of it because we think it would be kind of cuddly. So the Science Fiction Museum and Hall of Fame is named that because Paul Allen wanted it to be named the Science Fiction Museum and Hall of Fame. And it started, this is the Experience Music Project, which many of you have probably seen. It's a great big globby, multicolored building down at the Seattle Center right under the Space Needle. And that was, it is a shrine to rock music, and particularly Jimi Hendrix, which is a thing that Paul Allen loves, and so he built this museum as a shrine to rock music. And there was in this blue part here, there was an exhibit called The Artist's Journey, and there was a ride in there called the Grand Funk Ride or something. What was it? Funk Blast. Funk Blast, yeah. But it turned out to be really, one of the problems is that this EMP was built when Paul was riding high, and all the technology was self-developed and brand new, and and anyway, so it's, of course, proved to have some problems, and so now we're trying to switch over to more commercial stuff that we can get supported and so on. At any rate, the Funk Blast turned out to be much too difficult to maintain. It was very expensive, and so they tore it out about 3 years ago. Then what do you put into the 13,000 square feet that are now empty? And so, of course, another one of Paul's loves is science fiction. And he credits science fiction with inspiring him to become a techie, which is why you guys are all here. So you should be grateful for this inspiration. And he decided to display some of his science fiction artifacts. And then they said, well, why don't we do a whole museum? So they hired a guy named Larry Gertz, who's an expatriate Disney Imagineer. He used to be vice president at Disney Imagineering. And he put together a creative team, and they designed this museum, which those of you who've been there know how compact it is. I mean, 13,000 square feet for a museum is not very big. So we have a lot of stuff jammed into a relatively small space. And so what I'm going to do is just take you on a journey through the museum. And as I said, those of you who have seen it can chime in at any point, ask questions, give comments, whatever. So this is the first museum in the United States dedicated to science fiction. Now, there is a very small museum in Europe called Maison de Lires. My French is no good, but it means the House of Elsewhere. And it's a very small science fiction museum. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be doing a joint talk with them in September down in San Francisco. But we have some interactives, not as much as we wanted to have because we ran out of time and money. But we have a lot of cool eye candy stuff and many, 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 many cool artifacts. And the point is to talk about science fiction, and hey, you're early, and how science fiction, chimes into everything, how it affects things, and besides that, it's just fun. Come on, give me my words here. Okay, there it is. So we're originally projecting 250,000. We're getting about 1,000 people a day average. That won't hold up after the summer, but we're on pretty good track to get to about 250,000 visitors. The price is $12.95 for adults, $8.95 for youth and seniors, which I'm rapidly approaching. We have a pretty solid educational program being planned. We've already started having a lecture series, so I invite you to get on our website, look at our education page, and we have really cool lectures about science fiction. We got in 2003, we got a $50,000 NSF planning grant, which we're using to prepare to write a $1.5 million 3-year proposal on using science fiction to teach science. And we think it's a very powerful thing to do. And we have our website, which is sfhomeworld.org. And it's changing all the time. Now, our advisory board, well, that's me. And as Tamara said, I came out of the aerospace industry and ended up managing not only Sojourner, the rover, but the Mars Exploration Program, including Pathfinder, Mars Global Surveyor, and the 2 that failed in '98, and the 2 that succeeded in 2003. So, and that's another story. Our advisory board is truly outstanding. Greg Baer, who's a local science fiction writer, very well-known science fiction writer, is the chair. And we have, of course, the biggies like Spielberg, Cameron, and Lucas. We have Ray Bradbury, Arthur C. Clarke. We have Lawrence Krauss, wrote the physics of Star Trek, is on the board. We have fans like B. Joe Trimble and Forrest Ackerman. Special effects people like Dennis Murin. Cy Mitchell is a young local science fiction writer. Octavia Butler is a local science fiction writer. And so we've got 34 people on the advisory board. And the advisory board is very cool because if I want advice, I just email them and they send back advice like, what should we carry in our retail store? Bang! They came back with all these great ideas. Or maybe we want to do an exhibit on banking so we can attract a bank to sponsor an exhibit. Bang! They come back with all of these ideas. So the advisory board is very cool. Gary Stiffelman, for example, is an avid fan and collector. He's also an entertainment lawyer, one of the biggest entertainment lawyers in Hollywood. So he's helping us out with our licensing and fair use issues. Okay, so when you get to the Science Fiction Museum, you'll see our icon sitting there. This is EMP behind it, and we have the blue part called the Blue Potato, and that's where we're located. We've got this big signs. We still have trouble getting people to come in, so we have to station a guest services person there all the time. And we're right under the monorail, and as I was telling some of the people earlier, we were there when the monorail burst into flames. Some of us were actually in the lobby during the construction and got to watch the monorail burn, baby, burn. It was really exciting. This is loading very slowly. I don't know why it's doing this. Sorry about that. Okay, the first thing you do is come into the lobby, and you come in through these doors, and the icon's up here. And you get a ticket, and then you walk past all these intriguing-looking things without looking at them, and you walk right in here into Homeworld. When you come out, you come up these steps, and you'll immediately be confronted with retail. And so then you go in and spend a lot of money in retail. And then these kiosks here are called Make Contact, and that's where you can take a quiz about who was your favorite robot. You can see book recommendations, movie recommendations from the advisory board, and so on, and a list of all the books and movies that are in the exhibits themselves. Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay, galleries. We have Homeworld, Fantastic Voyages, Brave New Worlds, Them, and Make Contact. And I'm going to go into each one of these in detail. So Homeworld is about science fiction. Fantastic Voyages is about essentially space travel and other forms of travel. Brave New Worlds is about societies. Them is about aliens and robots. And then Make Contact is about making contact and staying in contact with science fiction. Sorry about the slow loading. We have the original E.T. Big Brother, when you go into his exhibit, he follows you with his eyes wherever you go. We have a really cool movie of the Jetsons. Are you going to change or not? You're just going to sit there, aren't you? See, if I hit it again, it'll jump to the next one.
Are you on battery?
Yeah.
Maybe slowing down to save power.
Well, it shouldn't be. Okay, Homeworld. So, as this guy was saying here, when you first walk in, the first thing you see is the globe. And this is a 68-inch globe projected from 4 projectors around the globe. Are images having to do with science fiction, and it's a seamless projection all the way around. And that's NOAA technology, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration technology, that does the wrapping. There are several exhibits in here having to do with what is science fiction. So we have Captain Kirk's chair and a command console and a model of the Enterprise over here in a case. This is an exhibit called What If, that talks about science fiction, because science fiction is always about what if. You know, what if your best friend were an alien? What if you could clone yourself and download your clones at the end of every day, which is a book by David Brin called Killing People. What if years were 1,000,000 years, 1,000 years long, seasons were 1,000 years long, and so on. The next we have Not So Weird Science, where we're trying to look at the intersection between science and science fiction, focused particularly on nanotechnology and genetic engineering. And there we have examples of science fiction about these two things, starting out with Frankenstein. Frankenstein was actually the first science fiction book written in 1818 by Mary Shelley. And so we've got a picture of Frankenstein up here as the first attempt to talk about genetic engineering. And then we have some, much more modern stuff, including Scientific American articles on genetic engineering. The timeline, we'll talk a little more about that in the Hall of Fame. And we have the science fiction community, which is about fans. So here's the globe up a little closer. And what it is kind of a preview of coming attractions. So we projected on it clips from all the videos that we have in the museum. We have over an hour and a half of video scattered throughout the museum. And, little clips about robots or about aliens or whatever. This is our What If gallery. That's E.T.'s spaceship. You can just see it there, and that's an original. It's on loan from Steven Spielberg, and the real E.T. is around the corner there out of the picture. This is Science Fiction and Society, which talks about things like the influence of science fiction on feminism, and the influence of science fiction on things like Dr. Strangelove. Who saw Dr. Strangelove? All the old people. Well, when you saw it, when I saw it, and you saw it when we were actually young enough to appreciate that, man, this could really happen to us. You guys see it, and it's just funny. But but we were of the generation that was hiding under our desks, right, to protect us from the nuclear fallout. And it brought it really home, like, whoa, you could blow up the world. So things like commentary on women's place, and it goes from where women are the helpless creatures being protected by Buck Rogers from the evil aliens up to where they have their own blasters, and they're doing them in. Then we have over here we have Science Fiction Community, which is about fans, and fans are really big in science fiction. Any of you guys go to conventions, science fiction conventions? Okay, got one or two here. Okay, you do dress up in costumes?
That's the reason I don't go anymore.
Hey, you don't have to dress in costumes. They're actually kind of fun. Anyway, one of our big important things is the Hall of Fame. And Paul Allen wanted to have the Hall of Fame at the Science Fiction Museum. And it turns out there was a Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame in Kansas. Kansas. Started by a couple of science fiction writers in Kansas. And they didn't really have a location. It was just sort of virtual. But over since 1996, they've been giving 4 awards a year, inductions into the Hall of Fame, 2 living people, 2 dead people. And so in order to get it more out there so more people would know about it, they've given it to us. And so we have manifested it in a wall of glass bricks. Each one of these bricks is a portrait of some famous science fiction writer or editor. Arthur C. Clarke, let's say, has his brick. And the lights flash around, and when it focuses on a brick, up above is a little mini documentary that plays showing some book titles and quotes and things like that. And then you can go over to this kiosk and you can find out a lot of information about it. And if you want to know more, you can email yourself. Thereby we get your email address. And but you don't have to be on our mailing list. It's all right. And then you can, delve into a lot more information about these people. This is the little mini documentaries that show up above, and this is the close-ups of the glass bricks. And just about all the really famous old science fiction writers are in there, from Mary Shelley and Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, up to Ray Bradbury and Arthur Clarke and people like that.
Was E.E. Doc Smith?
E.E. Doc Smith was inducted this year. He wrote the first adventure science fiction novel, space opera. Mary Shelley, E.E. Doc Smith were inducted this year, and Brian Aldiss and Harry Harrison. And we went back to Kansas for the induction ceremony and met Aldiss and Harrison, and they're quite characters. The timeline starts out in 1818 with Mary Shelley and goes all the way up to the present day. And down below the timeline is a reader rail and there's information about each era of science fiction, like pulp fiction. And when TV first got into TV with Star Trek and my favorite Martian, and up to the modern high-tech stuff, including Lilo and Stitch. That's our only instantiation of Lilo and Stitch. But we must have more Lilo and Stitch. We will in the future. I'm a big Lilo and Stitch fan.
Hey, at least you had Bender. Yeah, you got Bender.
Yeah, I don't like Bender. I like Lilo and Stitch. So anyway, and then there's a reader rail here that talks about the regular historical events that go along with these science fiction eras, so you can see the interplay. Like Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein in 1818, and that was only 4 years after Napoleon was deposed. So think about science fiction in the Napoleonic era. You just don't think of that. But we've got Men in Black. Now, The Changing Face of Mars is, of course, my favorite exhibit because it's about Mars. And what it does is it tells the story of when people used to first started looking at Mars through telescopes. Well, first, it was a god. The Greeks and Romans, Mars was a god. And then when people started looking through telescopes, they started to see features on Mars, and Percival Lowell thought he saw canals. And he wrote 3 books about these civilizations on Mars that were, bringing water down from the poles and irrigating their crops and so on and so forth. And so all of the science fiction in the early days was about a Lowellian Mars. So you got John Carter running around in a loincloth, on the surface of Mars. And you've got even Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote The Sands of Mars, which was one of the most realistic ones. You could just put on a breathing mask, and there were animals and plants on Mars and so on. Well, in 1965, Mariner 4 flew by Mars, took the first close-up pictures, and killed all the Martians because it showed that Mars was very cratered, desolate, looked like the moon. And it only took pictures of the southern hemisphere. In 1969, we sent 2 more by, and they also took pictures of the southern hemisphere. So all science fiction about Mars stopped in 1965. Nobody wrote any more science fiction about Mars until the 80s. Finally, Mariner 9 went into orbit and showed that Mars was really an interesting place. Big volcanoes and canyons and all sorts of striking features. And by the time Viking landed, people were starting to think about, well, there's life on Mars. And then Viking didn't find any life, so people got discouraged again. But the interplay between science and science fiction went on because starting in the 80s, people started to write science fiction about the real Mars. And so Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars is the prime example of that. Very realistic, using the best science, the best geology that we know about Mars, and postulating how a civilization would colonize Mars. And in fact, that kind of stuff is being used in planning the President's Moon-Mars Initiative. So people are thinking about, gee, what did Stan Robinson say? What did Ben Bova say? And what did Greg Bear say? And so on. And they're incorporating that because the people who do these things read science fiction. So they're incorporating that stuff into their subconscious and sometimes conscious ideas. So the interplay back and forth is right there. Okay, other galleries, What If? I talked about that. Not So Weird Science, the science fiction community, science fiction and society. And here's Dolly the Sheep. We have a picture of Dolly the Sheep. We have a big DNA molecule. We have a big fan costume, great big huge fan costume. Okay, once you understand all about science fiction from Homeworld, then you go downstairs, and now you're into the other galleries. And this is your science fiction experience. So that's Fantastic Voyages, Brave New Worlds, and them. It'll pop up in a minute. So you start out in Fantastic Voyages and you're in a spaceship. Okay, so the interior here is designed to look like a spaceship, and it's not a nice spaceship. It's kind of a grubby spaceship, like, you know, the Millennium Falcon or something. And so you walk in, and the first thing you see right in front of you is Darth Vader. And so immediately you know you've got enemies. So you have to do something. So you go over to the Armory, and there's all the guns you ever wanted. So we have Barbarella's crossbow. We have a Klingon battle thing called a botleth. We have phasers, every kind of gun and phaser and everything you ever wanted.
A lot of problems. 6-year-olds wanted the first gun from Mars Attacks. You had one there, and you could like one. I want one of those.
Well, get it.
Sure enough, you didn't have one.
Yeah. Well, we're
I know.
We're trying to get our retail in better shape. Okay, so after you get your guns, then you go over here and you get communicators and medical devices. Then you can pick out your spaceships and get ready to go on your space voyage. And our big eye candy down here is Space Dock. And this is you're standing on the deck of a space station looking out, and there's 20 different spaceships flying around, and you know the whole space station's rotating. This is a 12 by 5 foot display. It's about the size of this blackboard, the whiteboard, and it's really cool because these ships are coming in and out and docking and going through all kinds of maneuvers and stuff. And here's some of the ships. Oh no, this is our kiosk, and then you can put your thumbprint on the kiosk, and you can call up any one of these ships and get more information about it from our extensive database. And you can watch a mini documentary about whatever ship it is you've selected. Sorry about the slow things here. And here are some of the ships. So we have the Star Destroyer from Star Wars, which will come up in just a minute. There it is. We have the Millennium Falcon, I think, is on this one too. Click, click. I should have brought my power cord, I can tell. And these are all CGI. Every one of them is individually rendered by a company called Effects Design. Here's our TIE fighter.
No, X-Wing.
I'm sorry, X-Wing fighter. And we have, over here is going to be the TIE fighter. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Okay. You guys are too smart. You know everything. So, and these things, you know, these things are dodging around and dogfighting with each other, and the Millennium Falcon's in there messing with them. E.T.'s mothership. And it's actually very little. It's small, you know. So, and they're also scale. So everything from Rama, which is so big we can't dock it at the space station, so it's way out there, to Red Dwarf, which is a really big, it's a TV series, to Moya, which is a living spaceship. We have New York from Cities in Flight. And there should be one more popping up here. Oh, yeah. And then Zarkov's rocket from Flash Gordon, which is really neat because it has sparks flying out of the rear end.
I didn't notice. They didn't have the smoke going up.
No, just the sparks. Bebop is a cartoon, Cowboy Bebop, which I've never seen, don't know anything about, but cool-looking spaceship. And I think Futurama, no, Moya, here's Farscape, which is the living spaceship. There she is. And the Enterprise and Star Trek, of course. There are many instances of the Enterprise. In fact, Nichelle Nichols and George Takei were here for the opening, and they got up and stood on Captain Kirk's chair and signed the Enterprise model. Nostromo from Alien. And Centauri Primus from Babylon 5, which will show up over there in a minute. And then, once you have your spaceship, you're going to need, there's other ways you can travel, so we have stuff about teleportation, we have stuff about time travel, and so on, including the skateboard from Back to the Future. Then now you've got all this stuff, now you want to go to some interesting place. So there's amazing places, and there's books about the moon and the sun, you know, going to the moon, going to the sun, and so on. There's a whole display of Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune, and Amazing Places here is another globe, much smaller, which projects one of 6 different planets. You can choose Hoth, or Acheron, or Jupiter, or Arrakis, or the Pygmy Planet, and there's one more.
We couldn't figure that one out. How does that one work?
Oh, it's just a projector.
From where?
From the back.
From the back, okay.
Your 6-year-old could have told you that.
Well, that's what our graphic choice was.
Okay, so yeah, Solaris, that's it. So each one of these is, very carefully rendered, and then a little mini documentary plays. I've got a little 1-minute mini documentary about each one of them. The Pygmy Planet, by the way, is, I knew nothing about it. It's a story by Jack Williamson about a guy who creates a 3-foot planet.
Yep.
And there's other galleries, science fiction characters. So we have the Predator mask. We have a Yoda. It's just a reproduction. Most of the stuff in the museum is originals, but we also have some reproductions. We have the original E.T. that rode the bicycle across the moon. We've got him. A whole set of Star Wars action figures.
Yeah,
Spacesuits.
That was another thing that caused problems.
A lot of spacesuits. Yeah, my daughter had those. She loves them.
My 9-year-old loves them. And asking, what's the Predator look like? Because he's never going to see
It's so scary.
Opened his eyes, walked him right up to it.
What does he do?
Scream.
I hope so. Well, and there was actually at the opening there was a guy with a Predator costume who could make the mouth open. It was incredible. I said, "How long did it take you to make that?" And he said, "A year." Okay, then now you've gone on your journey. Now you're going to come back to Earth, and we go into Brave New Worlds. And Brave New Worlds, out of Amazing Places into Brave New Worlds. And Brave New Worlds is about society, Earth society, really. And there's two cases on dystopias, utopias and dystopias, mostly dystopias. So we have Big Brother, and like I said, he follows you with his eyes wherever he goes, wherever you go. We have a Tunic from Logan's Run. We have, now in this same case is a Harvester from The Matrix. We've got the Jetpack from Minority Report. A bunch of posters and things, book covers, lots and lots of book covers. We have tons of books, all of which are Paul Allen's first editions on loan to us. And so this is about how science fiction interacts with society. And our big eye candy in here is Cities of Tomorrow. And again, it's a big screen like this and portrays 3 different cities, very active and moving, so everything's moving around in here. There's a dog running on a treadmill over here. All the air cars are flying around. The robots are going and so on. So the Jetsons is the view of the city of the future from the view of the 1950s. All colorful and happy and lots of cool stuff, but with traffic jams and with your air cars. And then we go into Blade Runner, which is a much darker view. And again, all very interactive and so on with all, not interactive, but all very active with all kinds of things going on in cars in the streets. And the spinner car comes flying in and goes over here and chases off a couple over here and Ralph's a homeless person over here, and just a lot of action. And it talks about Blade Runner as a much darker view of the future. And then we get into the really darkest view, which is The Matrix. How many people have seen The Matrix? So we start out in the park, and it gets dark, and of course this is all in color in the real thing. This is one of the early renderings. And then the harvesters show up, and it's in this blasted landscape, and the harvesters are harvesting the fetus trees, and yuck, it's really pretty awful. And each one of these, again, has a 2-minute documentary about it, so it tells you about these views of the future. And this is the view from the point of view of 2000. And then we also have Out of the Ashes. A lot of science fiction has been written about post-apocalyptic stuff. So Planet of the Apes, we have 2 original Planet of the Apes costumes. And lots of things like Waterworld and, what's the Mel Gibson one? Mad Max, and so on. But there's a ton of science fiction been written, and a lot of the science fiction writers seem to want it to happen because I'm going to be on top. After the world is blown up, I'm going to be on top. Of course, the Planet of the apes are on top, so you don't quite have that same perspective. Then we get into them. Now we're talking about aliens and robots, and our coolest alien is we have the Alien Queen from Aliens, and if she were standing up, she'd be 18 feet tall. But our ceilings aren't that high, so she's crouched over, very impressive. And next to her, over here, which I don't have a picture of, is the power loader that Sigourney Weaver uses to fight the Alien Queen. And we're going to actually have a little mini documentary. We're just getting ready to put it together now and put it out there, showing the battle.
That's over by the luggage?
Yeah. So the conceit here in them is you're in a spaceport. So you come in and it's about, You learn what it is to be human and come to understand that aliens reflect our hopes, dreams, fears, inadequacies, and prejudices. And the spaceport conceit is carried out, for instance, by having a lineup of robots here and trying to get through the metal detector, and of course they're metal, so they can't. We have another case here of toy robots. So we have, we have Robbie, RoboCop, Terminator, a Xylon back here, B9, and we have R2-D2 is up in front of B9. You can't see him here. And then we have Twinkie from Buck Rogers. And of course, and Robbie and B9 are carrying on a conversation. So they're complaining, and it's actual voices with lines from the movies, which is pretty funny. Here is the power loader. There's the Queen, and there's the power loader. We don't have Sigourney, and this is in baggage claim. So you're in a spaceport. So here's some baggage. This is a case of tribbles, and there's a Mars Attacks critter and a little alien here. And we're actually going to be putting a lot more luggage in here, so it'll look more spaceporty. We also have the Interplanetary Lounge, which Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still is the bouncer. But we're actually changing that. We're going to put, it's the bar from Star Wars, is what it is. So we have a lot of Star Wars figures and a lot of aliens in the Interplanetary Lounge. We're actually going to be putting Gort upstairs, so you'll be able to take pictures with Gort when you first come in, because we don't allow picture taking in the galleries, because, the flash bulbs aren't good for them. Flash bulbs. The flash aren't good for them, showing my age again. And then we have the cargo bay, which is an art gallery. And in the middle of the art gallery is a cocoon from Cocoon and an egg from Alien with the face hugger. That's here. So I don't know exactly why they're in the art gallery, but they are. And then we have another case on SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which right now is pretty wimpy, but we're going to be beefing that up a lot with help from Jill Tarter, who is in charge of the Allen array. Then you go upstairs, and now you can go to Make Contact, and there's 4 different kiosks here. And you can get online. It's not online, actually. It's just self-contained. We don't want people, surfing the net from Make Contact. But you can take a quiz. There's 17 questions about, what's your favorite robot? What kind of alien would you like to confront? Who's your enemy? How would you get where you're going? What's the most indispensable object? And I always put a towel. Okay, you guys know. And then it's got recommended books by the advisory board, recommended tapes, videotapes, DVDs, and so on. And then the complete list of books and DVD and video that's in the museum itself. And then information about the museum and information about, we're going to eventually have information about other things. Like our website has on it where the conventions are, and when conventions are occurring. So you'll be able to get that kind of information. So this is kind of an extension of our website, or our website is an extension of Make Contact, and we hope people will be encouraged to just keep making contact with us. We plan to upgrade things periodically as often as we can afford. And here is our website. Actually, this is not the current design. The current design is much cooler than that. But we have all of our educational events are posted on the website. We have a lecture series that's posted on the website. We have the Robot Hall of Fame is not on the website because we have a falling out with CMU, so we don't have a Robot Hall of Fame yet. And, of course, we're trying to appeal both to fans and to non-fans. And with our education, this is the focal point for our educational program, because Leslie Howell is the education manager, and she has already got 3 different science fiction writers to donate short stories, for instance. So there'll be original science fiction content on our website that you won't be able to see anywhere else. And of course, we want to have kids writing. One of our main objectives is to encourage literacy, so kids that come in who've seen movies but never read science fiction books, they might say, oh, gee, I didn't know The Matrix is science fiction, and gosh, Neuromancer, maybe that's a cool book I could read about something that would lead me into The Matrix. And so the idea is to subtly hook them in. The other thing is to try to show the link between real science and science fiction. So get kids interested in science through science fiction. And also social aspects, you know, Brave New World, for instance, 1984, Ursula K. Le Guin's stuff, all the sort of sociological kinds of things that you know, we want people to think about. You can get a lot of thinking about what might happen sociologically if you read science fiction. And we also have a party venue up on the 3rd level, which is a great big cool space with major Mongo speakers and things. This is our stairway. You go up the stairway, and it has the submarine from Voyage to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
No,
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, sorry. Has the spinner car from Blade Runner, the original. Has the original flying saucer from the day the Earth stood still. And we're going to be putting the derelict spaceship from Aliens up there. So it's...
The only way you get to these is by...
Well, the only way you can get to it right now is to come to a party or an event that you might want to have. So if Microsoft, for instance, wanted to have a party, you can get up there. Yeah.
Can you guys, there appears to be a large flat surface there. Can you guys do movie screenings up there?
Yes, we can. Yes. Yeah, we have a big movie screen, and the AV is just overwhelming. I mean, you know, if you want AV, we got it. I mean, the audio. And we got a big sound mixing station and everything, yes.
Where are the lectures at?
Well, the lectures are mostly in the JBL Theater in EMP. It seats about 190 people, and we haven't had any, you know, standing room only yet for those. But if we were to do a film series, for instance, we have to look at how many people are signing up, and we may have it up here instead of down in JBL Theater. But EMP, of course, has Sky Church, which is another entertainment venue. So we now have about twice as much room for parties and showings and concerts and things like that as we used to. Yes?
What is EMP?
I'm sorry, Experience Music Project. Did you come in late? I explained that earlier. Experience Music Project is our sister organization. And in fact, this building, which is down under the Space Needle. Have you ever been down there? It's the world's ugliest building.
Space Needle far, but
okay, well, if you go to the Space Needle and you turn right, there is this big, multicolored, very interesting-looking building. And that's the Experience Music Project. And it's, as I was saying earlier, it's a shrine to rock and roll. And the Science Fiction Museum is located in 13,000 square feet in one corner of it, and we're brand new, and EMP is 4 years old. And so if you're interested in rock music at all, that's the place to go. Yeah.
Yes. Does the Science Fiction Museum also have archives? Do you have books and other things for research?
No. However, we have a partnership with the Center for Science Fiction in Kansas at the University of Kansas, and they have a large archive, and you can do research there. So we don't want to duplicate that. What we want to do is hook people in and then send them to Kansas if they want to do serious research.
But you will have lectures,
yes,
movie series.
Yes, in fact, if you get on our website, and frankly, the website the new one just came up, and I'm not familiar enough with how it's organized to tell you, but search around, you're good at that. Search around and you'll find our education program, and it's the lecture series. The film series will start in the fall. I think we're going to do 5 or 6 films, and then each film will be narrated by somebody, or be, you know, commentated by somebody who's knowledgeable about science fiction in that particular film. So it's an educational event as well as watching a cool movie. Yeah.
Are there any plans to start another science fiction magazine or do something to encourage and support science fiction writers and those trying to break into the market?
We would very much like to do that, and what we're doing is we're going to offer in the gift shop, you know, you can buy a subscription to one of the 2 or 3 magazines. The magazines are frankly in financial trouble, and so we're trying to debate right now whether it would be worthwhile somehow bailing them out or helping them out, and that's a debate going on. A lot of that's up to Paul Allen as to where he wants to invest his money. But it's a very serious problem because the whole new generation of science fiction writers gets started in the pulp magazines. And the pulp magazines, you know, if they go under, there's no place for new science fiction writers to get started. So it's something we're talking a lot about with the advisory board. We haven't decided what to do about it yet. We're only a month old. Give us a break here. Yeah.
What's the crowd at 7 days or 9 days?
Let's see. Actually, late
Yeah, it's
on any
time,
day.
not day.
Late on any day. So come at 4 p.m., and then you can spend 4 hours, or come at 3 if you want to spend 5 hours. Early in the morning tends to be really jammed all the way through the midday. But later in the afternoon, I mean, I go over there at 6 o'clock a lot, and there's hardly anybody there, so that's the time to go. Yeah, 6 o'clock, there's nobody there. I mean, very few people. Between Saturday and Sunday, it's about equal. Yeah.
One of the things I think that makes science fiction such an interesting, compelling genre is that the community itself, like you talked about, the community of fans is really active and interactive with each other. Is there anything by way of the website yet, like discussion boards or mailing lists or that sort of thing?
Not yet, but we plan to add that. We have a subcommittee of the advisory board, which is Astrid Bear, Beto Trimble, and Forrest Ackerman, who are all fans. And we're asking them to recommend, what's the best way. We're also having a presence at the cons. In fact, we have a team at Comic-Con right now. We'll have a team at Worldcon. We'll have we just have a booth. And the plan is to have our booth, well, not a booth, but a table, and have our table with our monitor on it where we can play some of the cool video that's in the museum, plus, hand out buttons and sell memberships and stuff like that. By the way, memberships, we are soliciting memberships. We have about 1,200 members to date, and the basic membership is $40 for a Terran, and if you want two of you, a couple, or, two related people or two unrelated people who want to join together, are symbiotes, and that's $60. Hive Mind is a family, and that's $75. And it goes on up to 10,000. So for 10,000, you can be an immortal. Although it's only good for a year. It's a short lifespan. It's like the Pygmy Planet. And let's see, what else can I say about that? Yeah, we have a joint ticket with EMP. So if you wanted to go spend the whole day, you can get a joint ticket for $24.95 for... EMP's price is $19.95. Ours is $12.95. You can get a joint ticket for $24.95. And even better now, you can get a single ticket for $33 that gets you into the Space Needle, EMP, and SFM, Science Fiction Museum, just through the height of the summer. So it's a heck of a deal. And you can do it any time within a week.
So are you all on Prime Card yet?
Sorry?
Passport Prime Card?
No. No, it turns out that we're so small
Right.
and have such, relatively, we only have 1,000 people a day on average come through. It's just not worth, spending the overhead to be on Ticketmaster.
Yeah, I got that speech when I asked.
Oh, okay.
The restaurant and lounge and EMP takes it back.
Right. Well, that was the confusing thing, because EMP takes it, and Space Needle does some sort of discount or something for this effect.
Really? Oh, frankly, I don't know what a Prime Card is. I assumed you were talking about, like, Ticketmaster.
It's like a discount card.
Oh.
It's another...
It's an employee quirk.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
Poor
know.
Microsoft just needs to save money always, they can.
Yeah. Tisky. Other questions?
The big displays that are the size of the blackboard up there, is that like 35 or 65 millimeter film projecting on that?
No, it's run off of a thing called Sea Change, and it's actually electronic. I don't know anything about the technology, but it's...
It seems to be very high resolution. I just wonder
It's very high.
Very high res.
Excellent. Yeah, big files.
Yeah.
Big files. Yeah. Well,
So it's digital?
Right? Yeah, it's digital.
Oh.
It's all digital, all CGI.
The projection.
Yeah, the projection's digital as well. I mean, it's a projector.
Yeah.
A high-end projector. In fact, it's two high-end projectors for both Cities of Tomorrow and Space Dot. The Amazing Places only has one projector, but it comes in from the back and it gets that spherical look. And all three of those were done by Effects Design.
Believe in extraterrestrials?
Certainly. I don't believe that they've come to Earth and kidnapped us. But I consider it very unlikely that we're the only, beings in the universe. And it's pretty scary if we are, because we're not taking good care of ourselves. That's another thing, yeah.
Do you have many of the authors on your advisory board come through and give talks, presentations, book signings, any of that?
Sometimes, yes. During opening, we had 5. 5 of our advisory board doing signings, but we normally don't have that many. We're actually working with UW Bookstore to get people in, and when somebody comes and does the signing at UW's bookstore, we're kind of a co-sponsor of that, and we advertise it. And we, sometimes we bring them in. They do lectures at SFM, book signings at UW, and so on. So
do you guys have a mailing list yet for that sort of thing?
Yeah, if you remember. But it's on the website.
Okay.
It's all on the website. So just check the website every week or so, and you can see all the things that are going on. Yeah.
So I'm sure you have various kinds of school outreach programs. But you have something like from a local high school?
Well, our outreach program is just starting. What we haven't had any school group. We'll start school groups going through in September, because we just, we just got open. Yeah. Well, no, but there are school groups that come through for EMP. Homeschools, camps, and things like that. So there's actually a pretty active school program in the summer for EMP. We just haven't gotten cranked up to do it yet, but we're going to be working with EMP to do the same sort of programs that they do, and in the fall, we'll definitely start running school groups through.
We also have things like you said before, contests for school kids.
Well, we, in a minor way right now, we're planning a scavenger hunt. For instance, so the kids can go through and try to find stuff in the museum. There's a thing right next to Space Dock, this weird kind of metal sculpture thing. We're going to have a name the thing contest, and you can, sign up, and we'll post the best name of the week or the best name of the month or something like that on the website and post it on the thing. We call it the Omega 13, but that's not necessarily its name.
Well, it's not from the show, is it?
No,
Okay.
It's just made up.
Right.
It's just a bunch of random stuff put together.
Well, that's pretty much what Omega 13 looked like.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Gort model you had there stated it was supposed to be actual size.
Yeah.
But if you compare it with the picture right next to it with Michael Rennie, it seems a lot bigger in the picture.
Well, the one we have is 7 feet high.
Okay.
It's a repro. It's not an original.
How short is he?
Michael Rennie?
He's not short, I don't think, but
Yeah.
it looks like twice as tall as him in the photograph.
Well, frankly, I
always thought it was bigger than that. So.
I'm told he's 7 feet tall.
Okay.
But there's one scene where he's carrying a woman, so it's a guy.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't make him too big. But ours is 7 feet tall.
Right.
Impressive.
Are there plans for further acquisitions? Because, movies are always coming out.
Well, one of the things we're doing right now is we're in Phase 2. And Phase 2, we're actually looking at... The thing was, we did the whole thing start to finish in 18 months. And so we ran out of time, we ran out of money, frankly. And so what we're doing now is trying to fill in some of the gaps that left. So when you go to them, it's really great, and then as you get ready to leave, it kind of peters out. So we're adding movie posters. There's a thing down at the Cinerama that's called Active Vision or something like that is a cool thing for movie trailers. So we're going to put that in. We'll show iRobot movie trailers and things like that. So we're planning to spiff it up, and we're working on where people get confused about how to go through. So we're going to have alien footprints that'll kind of guide you through. So we're putting those, we're just working on the design of the alien footprints right now. So we're going to be adding stuff. It's going to be relatively modest for this next round, just trying to get open, see what's going to go. Like, for instance, in retail, we're doing an analysis of what's selling and what's not selling. Our CEO didn't think books would sell, but we are selling books. Yeah.
Do you have anything on, fan/parody kind of things that have been done? Like fan fiction?
All we have is a little Galaxy Quest stuff.
Okay.
That would be big fan parody.
Yeah. We have a whole section on fans, and they're kind of a parody among, like we have the fanzines, and we have a little mini documentary about like Ray Bradbury and Greg Bear talking about they started out as fans, and Ray Bradbury says, I started out as a fan with Forrest Ackerman, and I wrote dreadful stories, and I drew dreadful pictures. This is but after working with these people for a long time, I turned into a good writer. And so, kind of the history of fandom is in that science fiction community exhibit. But frankly, we don't have as much really fun stuff as I would like to have, or as Paul Allen would like to have, for that matter, because Jody Allen Patton, his sister, is really the manager of the museum, and she's serious. She wants it to be serious. So it's not as much fun. In fact, Paul said, "Can't we make it more fun?" So we will have more fun stuff in there. Okay, thank you very much.